I got all of that on video. What the fuck?
That's bizarre.
Whoa. What the fuck? Whoa.
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
Jim, come out here and check this out.
What the fuck?
What is that?
What the fuck? This shit's changing different shapes, bro. It's just a circle. Look. It's just hovering.
These beings, they don't land and walk around. They're waiting for us to grow up. Because back in the ancient times, they would show up. People were so, the IQ wasn't there yet. We were just hunter-gatherers living around, and we didn't have a weapon to fire back at them. Now, somebody shows up. Everybody wants to try to take it out of the sky. We want to get this technology. We want to co-opt it. They look at our planet and they go, okay, they know how to split the atom. Interesting. Oh, they've got weapons. Let me check out the codes on these weapons. We know this because UFOs have showed up at military bases and deactivated nukes in broad daylight, as testified before Congress by actual military officers and nuclear physicists. But they say, okay, well, they got all these nukes aimed at their own planet. While they're still on the planet with no escape hatch, saying, we're going to just keep looking. We have to just monitor and look at the situation and just keep seeing how long will it be before they wake up.
Allegedly, this man behind David Grush knows the biggest secrets of the U.S. government, including the location of the extraterrestrial biological intelligences. Charles McCullough III was the first Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, ICIG, a position he held from 2011 to 2017. He was appointed by President Barack Obama and confirmed by the U.S. Senate. McCullough had a long and distinguished career in law enforcement and intelligence.
And as it is plain to see, even though he filed the whistleblower complaint with the Inspector General McCullough, it's obvious he's sitting right there with Grush. I mean, the muzzle is tightened as tight as it can be. I mean, he knows, McCullough already, just as they say, he already knows everything. He knows what's going on. And look, they're a little bit at the time, and this was an awesome conference. This was the most awesome thing that's happened in I don't know how long. I mean, does anybody realize what just happened? Okay, even if you don't follow people like my profile, people that are into UFOs and things like that, do you not realize the government just admitted, I'm just telling you that if you don't believe in UFOs or aliens, they just admitted that it's all real and that it's non-human origin.
This happened. I'm sorry.
What is that?
There's a passenger on the plane, looks out the window, grabs the phone. This was filmed in June. The traveler sees that, an object apparently changing shapes in seconds. Oh. Is it a shape-shifting object? Is it Bezos? Is it Branson? What is it? Is it a UFO?
Mel, go for it. What do you see?
I have no... Okay, I'm looking at this for the first time. I wanted to be surprised. Whoa!
What's that?
No way!
Okay.
That's crazy.
So...
No, man.
I don't... That could be anything. Honestly, here's the thing. Like, I don't know what that could be.
According to Fravor, it was a bit smaller than an F-18 and resembled a giant mint of Tic Tac. As Fravor continued to descend, his wingman decided to maintain altitude and kept watching from above. Flying in a spiraling downward motion, Fravor was getting closer and closer until suddenly the UFO realigned its axis and began to climb at an incredible rate of speed. Both of them were now flying in a circle. The UFO was coming up while the F-18 was going down. In an effort to close the distance between them, Fravor made a final aggressive turn before the UFO rapidly accelerated up to hypersonic speed and disappeared in a matter of seconds.
What the fucking hell is that? I'm out here on Coronado fucking Island. I don't know how well you can see that.
Some of you guys did not watch that UFO conference today. If you didn't, here is the best of what they had to say. Watch it.
You believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier. Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR system malfunctioned and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission.
Grush, as a result of your previous government work, have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Mr. Grush, as a result of your previous government work, have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself about ATs, advanced technologies that the U.S. government has?
Based on conventional advanced tech, I was briefed to the preponderance of the Defense Department's both space and aerospace compartmented programs. Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, but how does a program like that get funded?
I will give you generalities. I can get very specific in a closed session, but misappropriation of funds and
does that mean that there is money in the budget that is said to go to a program, but it doesn't, and it goes to something else?
Yes, I have specific knowledge of that. Yep.
Has the U.S. government become aware of actual evidence of extraterrestrial, otherwise unexplained forms of intelligence? And if so, when do you think this first occurred?
I like to use the term non-human. I don't like to denote origin. Keeps the aperture open, both scientifically. Right. Certainly, like I've discussed publicly previously, 1930s.
Do you have any personal knowledge of someone who's possibly been injured working on legacy UAP reverse engineering?
Yes.
Okay. How were they injured? Is it something like a radioactive type situation or something we didn't understand?
You can imagine assessing an unknown unknown. There's a lot of potentialities you can't fully prepare for.
Been watching this for like 20 minutes. Creep from the north, going to the south.
More breaking news now. Americans will soon learn more about UFOs. News Nation has just confirmed that the House Oversight Committee will hold a hearing on unidentified aerial phenomenon. That will be July 26th, according to one of the two leading members of that hearing. Joe Khalil joins us live in Washington, D.C. with more on what your sources are telling you at this hour. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Marty. Yeah, we've been able to confirm that hearing we've been talking about is going to be on July 26th. So that's Wednesday next week. And that was confirmed to us by Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. She's one of two members of Congress on that House Oversight Committee who has really been leading this effort, her along with Tim Burchett, a congressman from Tennessee, being the other one. Now, they've just confirmed the date of it. So she didn't confirm any witness list yet. We're not exactly sure who we're going to be hearing from and what specifics we're actually going to be hearing during that hearing on the 26th. But what we can tell you is generally it is going to be about UAP whistleblower claims like the ones that we've heard from David Grush, our whistleblower who came forward on News Nation. And you may remember we actually broke the story as well that this hearing was going to be happening at all. A major step for the House Oversight Committee that to date has not held any sort of hearing like this. It is going to be sort of the first of its kind on this subject matter. So that in itself certainly going to be intriguing. I imagine a lot of people wanting to tune into that. There were some questions also about where this was going to take place, and we have not been able to confirm that exactly yet. There was some talk, some discussion from Congresswoman Luna herself. She told us about having this hearing be a field hearing in Florida, but I've heard recently from sources that that's actually not likely anymore just because of the schedule that Congress is under right now, that it's more likely that would end up being here in Washington. So we're going to try to continue to dig in and figure out where exactly that's going to be, and also whether this is going to be a full House Oversight Committee hearing or whether it's going to be a subcommittee, meaning just a smaller group of members. We think it's more likely going to be the latter, but still a lot to figure out here, again, in terms of who is going to be speaking and what we're going to be hearing. We know, again, Wednesday next week is going to be the big day, so you can circle that. Bring it close. Okay, I'm going to put this camcorder down. Okay, I'm going to put this camcorder down.
Suddenly, all I could see was a bright light through all of my windows, and at that exact same time, my car's power steering and the engine's electrical system, everything died, completely died. When I exited the vehicle, I rushed towards the front end of the car, believing there was someone pointing a floodlight at us. I had some words to say to that man. I stepped through a thick field of white plasma that encompassed a spheroid craft. As I turned to go inspect the craft, my wife opened the door, and she ran out towards the front of the car, and she was yelling, "Steve, no." She was instantaneously locked in place in a bright white field of plasma. As I looked at her, I thought to myself, It's okay. She's in stasis lock. That plasma enveloped her body with about 6 inches. I heard a female voice calmly state, felt like it was in my head. It said, she is in stasis lock.
She got what they're calling some of the most compelling UFO video ever. It just got released today. She's flying in a plane in this silver thing. They freeze framed it. It looks like a flying disc. She's just in a plane and filming out the window. And they had seen this thing apparently, and she's trying to film it, and it shoots by the plane. That to me looks like it's from another fucking world. You know, you also have to take into consideration what kind of phone does she have, how fast is the camera, but that looks very distinct.
I was told from intelligence people that there's footage taken from an iPhone in a Air Force jet in the Navy in 2020 of an object the size of a football field, triangular shape, that came out of the ocean and went straight up past these jets. I know, I'm telling you that footage exists. I can't wait to see this stuff. It's going to happen. Christopher Mellon, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, told me that it existed. I'm trying to put pressure on the government to have it released. They know it exists, and they know there's lots of other very compelling photographic evidence that is yet to see the light of day.
Okay, they're talking about a triangular craft the size of a football field. That is a big ship. There's been ships also discovered, they say, that's 2 or 3 miles wide. And then there's that one ship that they built a structure around in another country. So they have this. Now, it makes me wonder, they say it was triangular, it came out of the ocean. There we go. Are they from space, or are they from here? Or do they have a base in the ocean? See, a lot of people tend to forget these things with their technology. They could put a base in the ocean and they don't have to worry about anything. They don't have to worry about us. They don't have to worry about us stumbling on their base or anything like that, because that's where they can easily hide something like that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one?
I ran a photo enhance tool on the supposed leaked picture of the UFO that was shot down in Alaska.
Footnote, the Anunnaki that Zecharia Sitchin talked about, the Anunnaki are these reptilians, are they not, in most cases?
Yeah.
But there are some positive Anunnaki, are they not? Aren't there? In other words, that have started to change their ways, let's say.
Yes, and we got these blue people too. They got a little hair on their legs, but they're nice people. Okay, they're helping. And
they're very tall.
Yes.
Yes.
And but
I've been in touch with them as well. In
cool.
India.
Oh, wonderful. They're good people.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But we're just talking about 2s and 3s here. We've got, documented 23 different types of extraterrestrials, most of them being good people, okay? But then we've got these massive capability with facilities of the Draco extraterrestrial side that, they're controlling. And they don't just control this planet, we're just one of their planets that they control.
Is Mars under their rule or not? Because I know we have bases on Mars.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so one of the whistleblowers out there says there are wars going on because there are different bases on Mars between those bases.
Okay, and yes, many people, including myself, have watched partial wars with vehicles diving on top of other vehicles from the coast right here, halfway between Long Beach and Catalina Island.
Oh, sure.
4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. 2008, 2009, both. Okay, watched them both.
One of my witnesses was killed. He was the guy who ran iPod.org. It's a website that was out there, and he had set up a camera on his balcony and filmed wars at night over the skies in LA and off the coast.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And eventually they killed him.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's the Dracos or whoever that killed him, right?
Yes.
So let me just ask you, do you feel that you're psychic enough to look at someone and know if they're Draco or not, or reptilian and shapeshifted?
I have said that I don't have that ability. I at times pick it up.
Right.
Okay? But I don't have that expertise.
Okay.
But I can, for some reason, I know that SOB that was right down the hallway right here when we came in could be a problem.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why he was down the hall. We sort of were on the run to get in here because we wanted to get started. Sure. I saw him. Okay. And I don't know what that was.
Yeah. No.
He knew you were here.
Yes. Oh, come on. We're surveilled. It's crazy.
Yeah. No.
Well, I want to talk about AI as well. And I don't know if we're completely done with this reverse aging idea.
Well, I think it's far enough to say that that's real.
Yes.
That within supposedly less than 24 months, that program is going to be available to some people. Now, if you have enough money and if you have enough facilities, maybe you can get on the list first, okay? I don't know how that's going to work.
Right. Well, there's also a spiritual component to all of this that we haven't really dealt with yet. But I also, I have so many questions, and I know that you probably have a few. So I want to give you some time. So at a certain point, we got to manage our time.
Okay.
So one last question in regard to this whole sort of scenario in, Draco, reptilians, etc. Mark Richards talks about the Raptors as being a group of reptilians that went off planet after the dinosaurs. That when they said that dinosaurs went extinct, they didn't actually go extinct, but they're a certain group of them, from what I understand, went underground and stayed here, and then a certain group actually left the planet.
Early research into anti-gravity technology gained momentum in the 1940s, as Adolf Hitler poured tremendous resources into developing his secret weapon, the so-called flying bell. Once we acquired these technologies, they were augmented with the study of retrieved extraterrestrial craft, and we created our own fleet of so-called alien reproduction vehicles.
This is where Bell Labs was involved. This is where General Electric was involved. This is where a number of high-tech companies gained their knowledge.
Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and EG&G and Raytheon and E-Systems and MITRE Corporation and Booz Allen Hamilton and on and on and on. I know many people who've worked in these programs.
Quote, we have things flying in the Nevada desert that are 50 years beyond what you could comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. So that's coming from Ben Rich. Ben Rich headed the Skunk Works between 1975 and 1991. This is the original letter from Ben Rich on Lockheed Advanced Aeronautics Company letterhead. I am a believer, and so is Kelly Johnson. And here it says, Dear Ben, there are two categories. A, man-made UFOs. B, extraterrestrial UFOs. Dear John, yes, I'm a believer in both categories. I feel everything is possible. Many of our man-made UFOs were unfunded opportunities. In both categories, there are lots of kooks and charlatans. Be cautious, Ben Rich.
We now have the technology to take ET home. Ben Rich, CEO, Lockheed Skunk Works.
I was in the government. I decided I would do a remote viewing project looking at the year 2050. Big change. Most of Florida is going to disappear. Washington, D.C. is mostly underwater because of sea rise. You can change the human genome, and several thousand very rich people genetically engineer their children. You can have a child who's as smart as Einstein and athletic as Michael Jordan and as handsome or pretty as, pick your favorite movie star. That will be done principally to wealthy people to be basically a superior form of human being.
What? 2 nights in a row?
Have you ever heard about the secret KGB book of alien races? Allegedly, around 1951, the Soviet Union began giving KGB agents a book containing very detailed information on the alien races that visit Earth. Within this ominous book, we get a fascinating glimpse into the different alien races, their ships, the history of the races, and even guidelines for how to engage and deal with these beings. The book even includes a photographic example of a reptilian shapeshifting. There's also mention of a mysterious group of ETs known as the Council of Five. Originally a council of 9 races, but now 5. They've apparently monitored human evolution since primordial times, when we were only a one-cell organism. After the Anunnaki allegedly stepped in and tampered with our DNA, the council decided not only to monitor us, but to protect us. The book was apparently first uncovered and made public in the 1980s after being found in East Siberia. It has since been updated, containing current and new sightings of the alien races.
We started a discussion, and then he directed me and said, I want you to move from the chair you're in. I want you to move to that chair. And it was right in the middle of this huge office, nothing else around it but the chair. And you can read the document, and he's pulling out about a dozen typed pages and hands them to me. He said, you can read this, but you cannot take notes. My superior officers have asked me to show this to you. I'm looking at a front cover letter, all caps, briefing paper for the President of the United States of America on the subject of unidentified aerial craft. No date, no origination office. When I turned, I was then reading history, this page, history of things like sign and grudge. And now I'm about the 3rd or 4th page in, and I'm trying to read fast and ask questions. And I came to a paragraph that said, quite literally, these extraterrestrial biological entities, that's our translation now of Eben. Whether they were Eben or not is not clear, because those are the words. These extraterrestrial biological entities manipulated DNA and already evolving primates to create Homo sapiens. And then the next sentences were about what I assumed to be the avatars of history. And then the last sentence in that paragraph was, but the humans killed all 3. And I read that paragraph over and over, and the paper continued into a lot of history of extraterrestrials and our government and interfering with atomic this and projects that, and got back down to the last 2 pages. In the top one said, Project Garnet. And I remember saying, remember your birthday. I was born in January, and it's a garnet. Project Garnet. All questions and mysteries about the evolution of Homo sapien on this planet have been answered, and this project is closed. I remember that I read that paragraph over and over and over like the other. The final implication of that day is that the government had a lot of information that had been condensed into that briefing paper, in which the bottom line, whether it was the president, the secretary of defense, or a humble reporter from Denver, that I, you, all Homo sapiens sapiens, were the result of genetic manipulation of already evolving primates.
And you've seen some pretty compelling photographic evidence.
And I've seen some very compelling evidence that I very much wish was in the public domain. When I'm talking to these scientists at the Galileo Project, for example, and at the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, I so wish that they were privy to this information and that the public was privy to this information.
What happened when you looked at those photographs? Come on, put me there.
Well, it's like...
I want to be you for a minute.
It's like, wow, I can't think of any way to explain this other than, this is not something in our inventory, I'm pretty sure.
There are civilizations extremely advanced that are concerned with what we're doing. This station at the South Pole is a much later version of a man that I worked with for a number of years in the 90s who invented the neutrino light detector system on the satellites in space. He knew then that these were being used to track, target, and destroy extraterrestrial assets in space and also around the Earth. However, they are inordinately peaceful. They are organized in a group, and we need to come forward as a people instead of looking at everything as a military threat and see that there's an opportunity here and there has to be diplomacy and science and disclosure of the truth in order to avoid a catastrophe. My understanding is the technologies that are in these covert programs have become so advanced that at some point they could be a threat to these other worlds. As such, it puts our entire planet at risk because of the unchecked power and technology of the illegal secret government projects. This is a much graver national security threat than China, Russia, Iran, or anything the news media is currently covering.
¡Che, mi madre! ¿Qué es eso? Díganme que lo ven. ¡Qué mierda! ¿Qué güey? ¡Qué mierda, Ay, estoy asustada. ¿Qué hago? ¿Alguien me puede explicar qué es? Oh, ya, ¿qué onda?
Now, I know what you've seen is what those Navy pilots saw in 2004, and there have been some 300 sightings since then. And I've talked to those pilots, and they know they saw something, and their radar's locked onto it. And then all of a sudden it was here on the surface, and then it's there. And they don't know what it is, and we don't know what it is.
Top of the screen, there it goes, and then the camera will slew to follow it. You'll see it pop in and out of the field of view there. This is essentially all of the data we have associated with this event from some years ago.
So I am on one today with all this UAP, UFO news stuff. I just had something go off in my brain that has me feeling an emotion I haven't felt yet as a UFOologist. Not like a total UFOologist, but like someone who dabbles, right? I want you to listen to this interview from the 1980s. The gentleman being interviewed, Bob Oshler, I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, was a NASA mission specialist. And he's saying almost the exact same stuff that this whistleblower, Grush, is saying. And this is from like 40 years ago. Listen to what he says about why this information has been kept secret. Listen.
Institution in Washington, D.C., addressing the issue of whether this alarming issue of a confrontation with an extraterrestrial culture should be released to the public, this information. It was determined that there would be grave consequences for just an overt public pronouncement by government officials. So a determination... What does that mean? We don't panic. Well, not necessarily just panic, but the issues that it presented, not only theology, but issues involving economics, standards of monetary concerns. If you acknowledge type of technology that renders fossil fuel-related industries obsolete, for example, you have grave consequences economically all the way around the world.
Because if we have extraterrestrial technology that doesn't need fossil fuels to work, we don't need fossil fuels. We don't need the multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry that at this point has almost single-handedly destroyed the environment and climate, among others. I think I'm like furious right now about this, because this means if they had disclosed this back in the 50s, the devastation that we're experiencing regarding climate change didn't have to happen. It just didn't have to happen, but it did because of human greed. I wish this whistleblower all the best. I wish him all the protection in the world, because the human race deserves to know this. The human race deserves to know that we were lied to, that we were duped, and that we didn't have to go through the catastrophes that we are going through now with respect to fossil fuel-induced climate change.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General.
Has any of the activity been aggressive, been hostile in your reports?
I know of multiple colleagues of mine that got physically injured. And the activity...
By UAPs or by people within the federal government?
Both.
If you were me, where would you look? Titles, programs, departments?
I'd be happy to give you that in a closed environment. I can tell you specifically.
I would say, and I've told people that you have to know where to look. They're not going to divulge it to you because of the classification levels. But if you know where to look and who to talk to, which is exactly where Mr. Grush can point you, then you have them.
UFO.
Transparent here. Myself, Representative Burchett, and Representative Gates had attended an Air Force base, and we were blocked not only by the Pentagon but by the Department of the Air Force from seeing information, talking to witnesses. And after much arm twisting, we got some of the information. But the fact is that they answer to Congress and thus the American people. And any government entity that attempts to stonewall us is doing nothing in the invested interest of the American people. When I take at face value the numerous roadblocks that we've been presented with, it leads me to believe that they are indeed hiding information. I look forward to bringing this topic to light and finding out the truth of what is really out there.
Sure. I mean, we've had witnesses that have backed out on us, that have told us that they received inquiries, I guess you could say, from the Pentagon. And so, obviously, we're over the target, and they know it. And that's why they're firing at us. And if there isn't anything, then why the push to cover it up? Why don't we know? All we want is transparency. Tell us what it is.
Possibility of life outside of humans.
Well, the work last year was to destigmatize UAP reporting. I think that people are there. They're getting there. Obviously, there have been reactions in the past from 1947 even to H.G. Wells' A War of the Worlds, where folks were jumping out of buildings. But I think we've come to a different place thanks to science fiction and thanks to consistent reporting and groups like MUFON and others and documentarians. But the question becomes, is it otherworldly? Is it top secret? Or is it interdimensional? Stay tuned.
I know there are alien craft here from another planet. I saw other ones, but I was inside one. I know it was not made on Earth. I know it was made with materials that we cannot fabricate, we cannot duplicate, and we've never been able to. I know it uses a power source that's so advanced that we could only dream of something along those lines, and the energy density on it is phenomenal. It's nothing that I would ever expect to see. I know that, this is done in the highest levels of security, and, that they use all kinds of methods to keep it quiet, from disinformation to, some exotic ways of just hiding things. Like I said, the installation itself was buried in the side of a mountain, and I also know that there's lots of nonsense information that has gone around, and whether it was started by the Navy or military or whoever's at the absolute bottom, of the project, and I truly suspect that be the case, because look, disinformation is the most powerful way to distort facts. You just throw a bunch of useless stuff out there, and they just take the real facts along with the nonsense and bundle it together and say, well, this is just impossible, and there, your security is maintained. But I also know that at some point they've examined or had bodies of alien creatures somewhere. So I know that stuff for a fact. That's the bottom.
If there is one guy, I believe that's him, Bob Lazar. If you notice, Bob Lazar's, he's said a lot, and he's talked mainly about the technology and how these things operate and how these disoperate, and he was talking about it years before they actually saw it and everything that he described taking place. He also said there's a lot of disinformation. Of course, we know that. If you're into this, and then you wonder which ones are being dishonest. And our first thought is, it's got to be the people that are associated with the government. It's got to be Lou Elizondo and it's, people like that. And David Grush, who is the most credible yet, but it's not. That's not who it is. It's not Lou Elizondo, and it's not David Grush. It's the ones telling you that they're so nice. These aliens. They're so nice, and they're not hostile, and they're they're here to help us lift our vibration and our frequency, help us ascend. Yes, those are the ones lying to you. How do I know this? Once again, I have had personal contact and personal physical contact with them before myself. Not trying to sell a book, not trying to lie to you, just trying to tell you the truth. So I know if they saw any of the same ones that I saw when I saw what I saw, that probably not very nice. And not what you think they are either. Yeah, they're not from certain planets like you think they are. Now, the ones from here, They're definitely not nice. The ones from Earth, the ones from Antarctica, the ones from the ocean, the ones from inner Earth, the ones that are associated with the giants. Oh yeah, that's right, the giants. Forgot about them. Oh, that means there's some biblical truth. Ah, imagine that. Remember, the scripture tells us that Satan comes to blind the hearts and the minds of us all, and he's going to use technology to do so. So, you know, I believe in all these things, and I believe in extraterrestrials. I believe in other life. I believe in all that stuff.
I really feel like we're at the point in the Don't Look Up movie where we're all just sitting at the table waiting for the inevitable to happen, and then the government just pulls out aliens like, surprise, bitch, read the room. I just wonder, like, what type of reaction they were expecting. Like, we do not care. The oceans are literally boiling. There is a housing crisis that they just refuse to solve for. There is a heat wave with unprecedented temperatures that haven't been seen in hundreds of thousands of years happening over the course of a few days. And they're just like, aliens. And not just like aliens. They're asking a guy who talked to a guy who talked to a guy who knew about aliens. That's why I'm like, baby, if they not knocking on my door, I do not care. Handle this other shit first. And like, what is the end game? Because if we don't handle this, it's all over. So I understand that y'all want to keep making money, but what are you gonna spend it on? And who's gonna work for you when we're all gone?
In 1976, I got a flyer from the School of Engineering inviting me to a lecture by Ben Rich.
Ben Rich was the director of Lockheed's Skunk Works for 16 years. He oversaw a number of USAPs that were secretly managed at the Skunk Works, including, most notably, the development of the F-117 stealth fighter.
Ben shared a slide set of about 40 slides of different things, starting with the U-2 spy plane, going all the way up to the stealth fighter at that time, mentioning that he couldn't talk
But I am telling you right now,
thriller.
that motherfucker,
And it actually happened.
that motherfucker back
And
there
it
is
happened
not
in
real.
our own government.
And
Congressional
you can sit on
oversight,
this plane
the
and you can
constitutional
fucking die with
congressional
them or not.
inquiries.
I'm not going to.
It's because covered up. Now, the most recent foreign investment element that attempted of relying on material from a Russian agent, and thus claimed without any evidence whatsoever that our oversight work was rooted in Russian disinformation. Of course, you know, he conveniently left out that our oversight.
Battle between the Pentagon and lawmakers on Capitol Hill is intensifying as the U.S. House is set to hold another hearing this week on what exactly the government knows and doesn't know about, you guessed it, UFOs. Our Tom Dempsey is live in Washington with the latest on this hearing. I love the smile on your face, Tom. Why one congressman claims there's a big cover-up.
Well, the smile on my face is because it's such an interesting topic, Adrian. You know, more and more lawmakers are demanding answers about what exactly the government knows when it comes to unidentified aerial phenomena and possible threats to national security. And now, ahead of this hearing happening on Capitol Hill this week, there's a small group of Republicans coming out saying that they were recently blocked from learning information about UFOs from the Pentagon and the Air Force, and that they were blocked from reading testimony from people who possibly saw alien aircraft in the sky, and that includes two people who spoke directly with News Nation. Representative Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee, will be leading this week's hearing on Capitol Hill, and he claims that during a recent trip to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, he and other lawmakers expected to be part of a briefing on UFOs that allegedly got blocked by the Pentagon and other military leaders, with staff at the base refusing to answer questions brought up by whistleblowers who will testify at the hearing this week. Burchett has accused military leaders of keeping UFO info hidden for decades.
Nothing to do with what we were told we were going to be down there. And we called the meeting. Matt Gaetz basically said, this meeting's over until you get us information we asked for. And then they said we weren't eligible to see it. Now they put out some release that myself and Representative Luna are not eligible to see that. And that's just a bunch of BS, that the Pentagon knows better. And, you know, this is why no one trusts government.
Now, as far as the attention on this issue, our sister publication, The Hill, recently interviewed Senator Marco Rubio, who said, quote, "There is no doubt that in this field, generally, there's more than what we know. We're trying to get a process to where at least some people in Congress do know." And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for an amendment to the annual defense bill, creating a commission that could declassify documents about UFOs. The White House team has also come out saying that it takes the UFO issue very seriously and that it will share information about possible national security concerns when possible. Adrian?
All right, Tom, we appreciate it. And yes, there are a lot of Americans hoping for answers as well.
The Galactic Federation of Worlds has won the battle for planet Earth and our solar system together with the Earth Alliance. This event resulted in the 24-seater races returning. The whole fleet and all ships are parked around Jupiter. Now that all the evil extraterrestrial beings that oppressed and enslaved humanity have been expelled from Earth once and for all, the Great Disclosure can now follow. This is being prepared by the Galactic Federation and the Earth Alliance, along with 4-star General Glenn Van Herk under the Blue Ridge Mountains. A device was handed over, which contains the exact disclosure plans, including medical disclosures and free energy for everyone.
Is humankind on the verge of open extraterrestrial contact? And if so, is the current disclosure movement a first step towards revealing a collective of non-terrestrial intelligences working together within a galactic federation? For more than 60 years, alternative media has explored the idea of a galactic federation. From popular sci-fi shows to individuals who claim to be in communication with extraterrestrial intelligences, the possibility of a galactic federation as reality has been made more significant with its acknowledgement by the former general and head of Israel's Defense Ministry's Space Directorate, Chaim Eshed, when he publicly proclaimed, "Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation."
In December 2020, Chaim Eshed, who is a retired Israeli security chief, talked to the Jerusalem Post and said, there is a galactic federation and they've been involved with human affairs, but they're staying hidden right now because we're not ready for them. And they want us to know they're here to observe us, and they're very interested in the fabric of the universe, and we need to know more about the fabric of the universe. Well, that's pretty extraordinary.
Former Canadian Minister of National Defense and longtime Member of Parliament, the late Honorable Paul Hellyer, was the first and only cabinet-ranking official from a G8 nation to publicly state his belief in extraterrestrials and the alleged Galactic Federation of Aliens.
Well, I only know about the Galactic Federation, but they are concerned about what's going on in the world, and they have been working through individuals. They say, you clean up your act. You're in charge. It's your planet. And if it comes to a dead end, it'll be because you let it or made it a dead end.
Even in my conversations I had with the late Paul Hellyer, he told me that we had extraterrestrials helping our scientists on Earth at bases, and there was full cooperation with them. Paul would say that these were part of a galactic federation.
Tim, a tactical advisor to covert analysts in Germany, trying to understand the missions and strategies of non-terrestrial intelligences on Earth, recalls information from a collective of beings in the sixth density that Tim refers to as Being 6.
I also have heard Being 6 talk about some of its members being part of a galactic federation. So there seems to be a lot of truth to it. One of the first things in a dualistic universe that, comes up within species is alliance-ship, which means finding people who support your own position, which I would say is a truth all over the place in the universe. You have like many alliances. The Greys are setting up their own alliance-ship, so to speak, but different other species as well, have contracts with each other. And Being 6 directly spoke about a galactic federation, yes. Which basically makes sense because you have so many cultures and so many different planets and so many different standpoints going on in the universe that it totally makes sense to have some kind of regulatory system that might balance that out. And this is the way I understand a galactic federation. It seems to be quite a complicated situation because you have so many different agendas going on.
What is Operation Tandem Sled?
Tandem Sled is a intelligence collection operation conducted by U.S. Intelligence Service inside the Soviet Union. We knew the Soviet Union captured down UFOs, and we wanted to know what information they had gathered about these UFOs, and that's what Tandem Sled was.
Well, how did they obtain these crafts to begin with?
Well, there was 2 crashes that we knew of that occurred inside the Soviet Union. One crash occurred in the central part of the Soviet Union, one in Ukraine. And we knew this. We obtained that information from human sources or human intelligence sources or spies on the ground, so to speak, and from some communications intelligence. We also learned about traveling Soviet scientists. When they left the country, they came to conventions, they would hint that they knew about UFOs and they knew about some crash UFOs, and they related what they knew about where and when these UFOs crashed inside the Soviet Union.
Well, where were they kept?
They were kept at a place called Kapustin Yar, which is the Soviet equivalent to Area 51. It was located in the southeastern portion of the Soviet Union. And we knew exactly where they were being kept in building or area number 107.
Do they know where they came from?
The Soviets had some ideas that they came from the same place that the Ebens came from, Zeta Reticuli, because the craft that they had were similar to what the craft that we captured in 1947.
Oh, okay. And how did the United States actually know, and become aware that the Soviets had these craft?
We used human sources or spies. We would recruit Soviet scientists or Soviet intelligence officers or Soviet military officers that worked around there or around Kapustin Yar, and we tasked them with finding the information.
And what information did the United States learn?
Well, we learned that these crafts were highly advanced, that the Soviets didn't understand anything inside the crafts. They couldn't get any of the electrical systems to work inside the crafts. And we gathered this from either talking to scientists or actually conducting operation, very, very secretive clandestine operations where we sent
intelligence operatives, our own people, or military personnel into Kapustin Yar to examine these crafts.
Now, did you personally see any pictures or photographs besides the debriefing that you got?
I was involved in briefing and preparing the teams of military personnel that were going into the Soviet Union. Our job was to brief them, train them, tell them what to look for. We knew, or our scientists knew, because we had captured UFOs, what to look for in the captured UFOs that they had at Kapustin Yar. So we would brief our team members on what to look for, what to take pictures of, what to analyze, and then if they could capture anything, any items or devices on these crafts, to get their hands on them and bring them back.